Help Wanted, the first ever episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. And I gotta say, this is such a charming pilot. SpongeBob wants to get a job at the Krusty Krab. He has confidence, but then doesn't, and then Patrick convinces him to get his job. Squidward and Mr. Krabs then manipulate SpongeBob to buy a rare spatula that's literally impossible to find. They both soon get their retribution when a bunch of anchovies invade the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob then comes in with the rare spatula that he found, then cooks a bunch of Krabby Patties for the anchovies, and then he bombards Patrick with a bunch of Krabby Patties. The end. This is definitely my favorite cartoon pilot out there because it didn't try to do everything in one episode, which added to the enjoyment in my opinion, and it also sets up the foundation and tone really well for the show. There's also some iconic stuff in here, like Mr. Krabs' smelly smell, the montage of SpongeBob making patties, and the freaking wave of anchovies. I really think you should go watch this one on your own. It's only 8 minutes, but it is definitely worth my time. S tier. I'm glad we're starting off with this. This episode proves you can take such a plain plot and make it work, like other episodes in the show like Knowing is Allowed. SpongeBob forgot how to tie his shoes, so he needs someone to help him, and I love it for that. My favorite part of the episode, though, was the Loop-de-Loop song by Weeb, the same guys who did Ocean Man for the first SpongeBob movie. And I love this song. I listen to it every once in a while. And it has some pretty good visuals for classic SpongeBob standards. It looks really nice. The humor is also pretty classic as well.
I was just looking for the sports channel, Gary.
It's not a perfect episode. Season 2 ultimately has better ones, and SpongeBob could have just taken off the shoes because barely anyone in Bikini Bottom has shoes, but that would just take away the simplicity of the episode, so the issue isn't really a big deal. This episode goes in A tier. Not S tier, but still pretty good. Plankton is tired of his life, so he builds this mind-switching machine to switch lives with Mr. Krabs, until at the end he just doesn't like Mr. Krabs' life and just goes back to his life. This episode is appealing because it has so much meme-worthy content. Oh my goodness, Good Grief He's Naked, Holographic Meatloaf, SpongeBob's Weird Face, Soiled It, Victory Screech, I'll Remember You All in Therapy, and the scene when Plankton is switching lives. I also love Plankton's realization that Mr. Krabs' life isn't as good as he thought. It's a pretty distinctive episode from a lot of SpongeBob, so it's neat that this idea wasn't wasted and went to its full potential. This is the best episode so far. It edges over Help Wanted because of the comedy. Season 3 does have better ones, but if I did a Season 3 ranking, this would probably be number 10. S tier. Banger episode. I watched this one a bunch on my Nick Picks 3 DVD, so I have some thoughts on it, and it's great. Man, these first classic episodes really cooked in terms of quality. Anyways, Plankton opens the chum bucket for 23 hours, so Mr. Krabs wants to open it for 24 hours. Plankton somehow manipulates SpongeBob into making 1,000 Krabby Patties, so now SpongeBob is terrified of Krabby Patties, so he has to go to psychiatrist Dr. Peter Langton. Wonder who that could be. He succeeds with SpongeBob getting his mind off of Krabby Patties, but he fails to get the formula out of him because, you know, he's Plankton. This episode is really well animated. I like a lot of the expressions.
Look at these bags under my eyes. Even my bags have bags.
I love the direction this one takes. It feels like a more psychological direction than Graveyard Shift, even though I like Graveyard Shift a bit more, but this one's still good. It's not on par with the last one, but it's still commendable for an S tier entry. Season 5 started off with a heavy lore special, revealing that Krabs and Plankton were once friends. This is revealed when Plankton fails yet again at stealing the formula, making Krabs reveal the truth. Him and Plankton share two sides of the story. Krabs' story being that Plankton wanted to use the burgers that him and Krabs made at their new burger joint to control kids at their school, since this place called Stinky's closed down. and Plankton's story being that Krabs just wanted to open it because of money. Karen then comes in with the true story, where the restaurant had no customers and Old Man Jenkins wanted the patty. He faints because it's raw and the two friends accuse each other of befouling the patty. They eventually split and make their own businesses, and you can kind of see where it goes from here. I did enjoy the patchy segment at the beginning. Honestly, that's the funniest part of this. The opener is pretty action-packed too and kept me interested. It kind of faltered near the end because it was just the same story, except there's 3 different versions of it. It's the weakest so far, but it's still solid. I'll put it in B tier. It's good, but could have been better. We're getting into the middle era of SpongeBob, which is the worst era for me, mainly due to flanderization, gross-out humor, and repetitive plots. But did the middle era of SpongeBob really start off bad? Let's find out with House Fancy. Squidward sees Squilliam on this show called House Fancy and wants to make his house nicer for the program because of that. SpongeBob comes in a quarter way through and helps Squidward with his house in the most reckless way possible. Somehow though, Squidward wins against Squilliam, similar to Band Geeks, but that one was more impactful and way more memorable. I still like the ending though. People get thrown off with this one because of the toenail scene. That scene was nasty, but didn't really detract from my enjoyment too much, but it knocked it down a bit. I really like the House Fancy intro at the start. It has nice texture. But I wish SpongeBob cared more about Squidward winning, because in other episodes like mentioned Band Geeks and Enchanted Tiki Dreams, he cared a lot more about Squidward's dreams and did something that really embraced it. But here, he's just a dunce for the sake of it. Probably because Patrick borrowed his brain for the weekend. There's some good gags in here, like the really tall house and the hot tub in the elevator. This one's solid but cannot go any higher than B tier. Tentacle Vision is a tough one to rank, because there's some elements that I love but also some I hate. So Squidward finds out that his favorite show, Fab and Fancy, has been cancelled, so he makes his own show called Squidward Chat. SpongeBob and Patrick disrupt the show, leading to more people disrupting the show until Zeus the Guitar Lord comes in and renames the show to Squidward's House Party, but it doesn't feature Squidward in it. I'm gonna start with the positives for this one. I love how everyone comes in and disrupts the show besides SpongeBob, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, Plankton, and Pearl. It was very funny, and even though it's Squidward torture, it doesn't bother me that much. Now for the negatives, I think that Squidward torture in the middle isn't that funny. It's pretty painful to watch, and it brought down the episode a lot for me. Overall, Tentacle Vision is... mid! C tier. Squidward gets hurt on the job, so now he blackmails Mr. Krabs so that Mr. Krabs can avoid paying a fine to the OWS. The ending is pretty predictable, and the middle act of the episode is pretty gross and unwitty, especially with this scene that you see on screen right now. But this episode has a couple funny moments.
Your shelf collapsed on me, and I twisted my ankle.
I didn't even know you had ankles.
I don't have much to say about this one, so final thoughts. It's pretty solid, but does have its flaws. It's one of the weakest so far. B tier, honestly. Not related to the episode, but this is the first episode besides Truth or Square to switch to HD. And I'm glad they did it, because it looks really nice and I like the colors. Anyway, SpongeBob and Patrick see this group at the beach one day called Extreme Spots, and basically want to join their group because they're so awesome. It's pretty much just a montage of SpongeBob and Patrick doing a thing, but the Extreme Spots do it more radical. I also don't really like this fancy guy. He didn't really do anything. Saying this though, there are some good qualities to the episode. I like the slapstick, the guy voiced by Johnny Krill, and the bed attacking said, Johnny Krill. I think it lands at the end of B tier because it has some solid moments, but it's pretty forgettable compared to other B tier episodes. As much as I think that Season 10 is decent, it didn't start off too memorable. SpongeBob and Patrick see this commercial called Whirly Brains, a propeller that takes the brain out of your mind and you control the brain. They mess around for a little bit until their brains get captured by this old man. Then Sandy comes to help them, and then their brains are freed, returning to SpongeBob and Patrick and the owners. Wow. The main problem I have with this episode is the lack of anything compelling. All SpongeBob and Patrick do for most of it is just mess around with people, and it gets boring really fast. There's also some gross out humor in here, like the diaper scene. Ugh. Also, it started the exaggerated animation, aside from face freeze from season 8, and it's just not a good trend for the show at all. I'll give this episode a couple things. The colors, and the fact that Mr. Krabs and Mrs. Puff have been dating for 16 years, a cool continuity from Krusty Love. Still though, this episode sucks, and that's just enough to put it in D tier. Sucks. Thankfully, this makes up for it. Plankton's pet amoeba Spot has puppies, so he devises a plan to use them to steal the Krabby Patty formula, with tricking SpongeBob into training them and then capturing him at the end. But he fails to steal the formula because, plot. I really enjoyed this episode since it tried to do something new with Spot and the funny jokes that come with it. I also like SpongeBob's pet design when he's training the puppies. It looks really nice, to be honest. I wasn't expecting this, but Spot Returns is one of the better first episodes so far. I'm gonna place this one in A tier. Farmer Bob. SpongeBob and Patrick have to work at Old Man Jenkins' farm to pay off Mr. Krabs' grocery bill. And then we get a bunch of kooky farm hijinks where there's screw-ups, and then they bring aliens in at night for a barn mitzvah. I don't know, man. The level of interestingness is really low, because it's just the two messing around the farm, doing chores sloppily, and it gets boring fast. Let me put it this way. There are plenty of SpongeBob episodes that have simple premises, but there are plenty that do it better than this episode. For example, Sandcastles in the Sand. All it is SpongeBob and Patrick having a sandcastle war, but the reason why it's so entertaining is because of the action. It leaves me on the edge of my seat of who's gonna win, and it's just so fun and charming, and the action is pretty great. But here, it's just the same gag repeated for 5 minutes, or 6 minutes, and then they just do random stuff for the last 5 minutes, and it's just boring. Patrick's licenses was the only enjoyment I got out of this. Other than that though, this episode sucks. And I didn't want to do this, but this episode is going in F tier. I'd rather watch Whirly Brains, to be honest. After a lady brings a worm into the Krusty Krab, making people and pets allowed at the Krusty Krab, the health inspector comes in. He gives Mr. Krabs the option between
People or pets?
He chooses pets, which makes the humans go eat at the chum bucket. The humans then devise this plan to sneak into the Krusty Krab with these awful pet costumes. And then guess what? The health inspector wanted patties too, and then they sing this lame song about people and pets. The end. Honestly, it's not even the lack of interestingness that brings this one down. It's just boring. The twist is so basic and the humor just didn't really land for me. Feels so kid show-ish. But unlike Farmer Bob, I can give this episode 2 things. The return of Spot and the sea bear from the freaking camping episode. Still though, this episode's low D tier. Hopefully things pick up soon, because if it doesn't, that's sad. This episode stars Plankton, who is tired of being stepped on. When he encounters Sandy, she helps him become a master of karate. This reminds me of Squid's defense. He then infiltrates the Krusty Krab and beats the crap out of the Krusty Krab security guards. It's going good for Plankton until he finds out that Krabs doesn't have any feet, making him get severely injured, and that's the episode. The first 4 minutes of this episode were pretty unnoteworthy, but the second half of the episode was great. Seeing Plankton learn karate, it's a better version of Squid's defense, mainly because of its entertainingness? Is that a word? Seeing Plankton get his revenge on the people of the Krusty Krab, very engaging. I would have given this A tier, but the first half drags it to top of B tier. I still like it a lot better than the previous 2 though. The first time I watched this, it made me go, what the heck did I just watch? The Krusty Krab is filthy, so some random dude comes to help SpongeBob clean it by licking everything. You see what I mean by what the heck did I just watch? Sammy and SpongeBob head to Mr. Krabs' room, and Sammy licks the secret formula and has it on his tongue, making Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob try to get it off his tongue. Plankton is also here trying to read the formula off the tongue, but he fails. They get the formula back in the formula and Sammy vanishes. The end. I'm very mixed on this one. I love the doodle animation in one part of the episode, and I thought it got a little more interesting when they had to chase Sammy down to get the formula back, with Sammy cleaning the Krusty Krab so much that it turns a different color. On the flip side though, I barely laughed in this one because of its take on gross out humor. The humor is on par with episodes like Fungus Among Us, Allergy Attack, who even remembers that one, and A Flea in Her Dome. Those episodes are a lot worse than this, but the humor is about the same as those. Overall, Sammy Suckerfish was a mediocre way to start off season 15, but I think it's a bit better than Tentacle Vision. I'll put it in C tier. The most recent season, season 16, premiered with a 44-minute special. It involves Patrick's time machine going haywire at the Star House, which basically captures the Star family except for Patrick into episodes like Rip Pants, Rock Bottom, Neptune's Spatula, and Help Wanted, which I reviewed earlier. The Help Wanted segment is Grandpat taking over the world with Grandpatties, Squidita's being that she pulls pranks with the Rock Bottomites, being Rock Bottom of course. Cecil heads into Rip Pants, and I'll just play the clip.
Ripped Cecil. Fashion.
And Neptune's Spatula being that Patrick's mom yaps about cooking and cleaning. The biggest strength of this episode is the animation, using a color palette relating to Season 1's art style charm while still having some modernized polish. The Help Wanted and Rip Pants segments were hilarious, but the others suck. Rock Bottom is just pulling pranks and gets annoying, and Neptune's Spatula is also just annoying. The humor can be quite mixed, ranging from hilarious and witty to boring and unmemorable. Still though, this episode is solid, and I'm glad we ended on a decent note. I'll be putting it in B tier. Well guys, I watched the first episode of every SpongeBob season, and since I did that, now I gotta rank them from worst to best. Starting off with the worst spot is Farmer Bob, then A Place for Pets, then Whirly Brains, Tentacle Vision, Sammy Suckerfish, Extreme Spots, SpongeBob and Patrick's Timeline Twist Up, House Fancy, Accidents Will Happen, Friend or Foe, Single Cell Defense, Spot Returns, Your Shoes Untied, Fear of a Krabby Patty, Help Wanted, and finally number 1 is The Algae's Always Greener. Remember the Best Day Ever marathon, which started on November 9th, 2006? It was used to promote the SpongeBob episode Best Day Ever and the network premiere of the SpongeBob movie. And while the anticipation was high, Best Day Ever ended up being a mediocre episode in my opinion. I think this biggest issue with the marathon though was the ranking of the episodes. Some had pretty good rankings, but others were way too low on the list. One thing that confuses me is that Frankendoodle did not get onto the list. Like, Frankendoodle is one of the most legendary episodes in my opinion, and it bamboozled me when it didn't get on the list. And another thing that discombobulates me is that All That Glitters beat Band Geeks. Like, what? You would rather listen to SpongeBob cry for 11 minutes over a broken spatula than watch a legendary Sweet Victory performance with peak Squidward humor? Yeah, I know what I'd pick. I'm still a little mad that Karate Island got the number 1 spot. Like, hear me out. Karate Island isn't really a bad episode, but it's not an episode I would put in the top 40 or 50. Heck, maybe I wouldn't even put it on the list. There are some episodes that didn't deserve to be on the list, like Squidtastic Voyage and Funny Pants, but then there's episodes that were robbed, like Rip Pants and Club SpongeBob. And now, before I end this video, I'm gonna show you my personal ranking of the top 10. So here's the top 10. Keep Have You Seen This Snail at 10. Put Krusty Towers and Dunces of Dragons at 9 and 8. 7 can be the camping episode. 6 can be Krusty Krab training video. 5 can be Wet Paters. 4 can be Rock Bottom. 3 can be Graveyard Shift. 2 can be Chocolate and Nuts. And 1 can be Band Geeks, my personal favorite episode. Overall, this marathon wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it was definitely not good by any means. I mean, if they had all this hype for one episode, it should have at least been a 45-minute special. I mean, hey, at least they had the network premiere of the first SpongeBob movie, and I like that movie, so I'm glad they had that, I guess. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'm out. Peace.